Ron White, blackbeltmemory.com, two-time USA memory champion, and a man who got sick when I came to Texas to roll some jiu-jitsu with you. You're going to answer to that, man. Welcome to Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I love your picture here. Although I don't remember what the heck those things are in your hand in that picture. Are those VHS tapes?
Yeah, man, I kind of learned that from Russell Brunson. You know, he would hold up like something in his hands, and it'd always get people's curiosity, like, "What's that?" Well, in that picture, I'm holding up two VHS tapes, and they do pertain to what I'm talking about because those are the VHS tapes of my first memory seminar in 1991. But I'm holding them up so people go like, "What the heck is that?" Gets their attention. It's a 30-year-old memory seminar.
What? You were teaching memory classes in 1991?
I was. I'm 46 years old right now. I started in 1991 when I was 18 years old.
Wow. Good grief. How? All right. Well, okay. That's going to change this whole discussion, man. I mean,
sorry.
Good grief. I mean, that's cool. I'm interested to know, obviously, how you got started with the whole memory thing, but promoting live training sessions, I mean, at that young age, that is not normal.
No, it's not normal. I was 18 years old. I looked like I was 12. I would go and I'd speak at all the local Dallas, Fort Worth real estate offices, mortgage companies, that kind of thing, to speak at their weekly sales meetings. And whenever I remember one time I showed up and somebody said, I said, "My name's Ron White. I'm with the Memory Institute." And they said, "Well, great, Ron. When the speaker gets here, just let us know and we'll all go in together." And I'm like, "No, I'm the speaker." And they're like, "Are you serious? Are you still in high school?" But the way this kind of all evolved was I was 18 years old, just graduated high school, really struggling with college. I took a job as a telemarketer, and I'm calling up companies all day. Can we clean your chimney? Can we clean your chimney? Can we clean your chimney? A brutal sales telemarketing job. And I called this guy one day, and he's like, "We don't want our chimney cleaned. We're trying to sell our house. Thanks for calling." And as he was hanging up the phone, I said the words that changed my life. I said, "Sir, don't hang up the phone. If you're trying to sell your house, you should have a clean chimney." He laughed. He said, "I don't know about that, but I need a good telemarketer. Do you want to go to work for me?" And this is him talking to me. He said, "Do you want to go to work for me? I sell memory training seminars, and I'll pay you more than you're making now," which was a pretty safe bet. And I went to work for him basically the next day. That was 91. He didn't want to make me a speaker because I was only 18. All the speakers were at least in their 30s. But I was just persistent, and I was a good salesperson, and I convinced him to let me go out and start giving speeches. I did for a year, then I started my own company. And I'll pause here and shift it back to you. But before I do, I want to say that this is such an important part of this interview, and I'm glad we started this way because people know, and you said I'm a two-time USA memory champion. I used to hold the record for the fastest to memorize a deck of cards in the United States. I held the record for the longest number ever memorized in the United States in 5 minutes, 167 digits. And when people hear that, their natural assumption is going to be, great, I'm going to listen to this guy who has a naturally good memory and he can give me some tips. Wrong. A guy who has a normal memory, who was struggling with college, who just happened to be a good salesman, learned a system that anybody can do.
Well, it's encouraging to know that you weren't just born with this, because I know some people probably ask that, "Oh, I can never do that." You're probably some savant or something, but I mean, you were just a kid that just applied himself, huh?
Yeah, sometimes I'll do memory demonstrations, that are very large scale. And when I do, people will say, "Man, that's a massive display of memory." And I'll say, "No, it's really not. It's a massive display of discipline." Because anyone who just sits down and does it can get incredible results from their memory. Incredible. I am just the most ordinary brained guy in the world.
So I want to talk about, two things. One is obviously some tips for having a better memory, but also how you've gone about growing your business, because both of those are of interest and of need for our listeners. And I just wrote that down. It's a massive display of discipline. I know a lot of times people will say, "Oh, I'm terrible with names. I'm terrible with names." So, I mean, they're just telling themselves all along they're terrible at something. And so it's just a foregone conclusion, right? I mean, can it be as simple as just preparing ourselves better and not sabotaging us in situations like that we're going to get better?
Well, a lot of it, you're right, is people do sabotage themselves. And by saying I have a terrible memory, I'm not good with names, blah, blah, blah. And all that self-talk really is detrimental. Another kind of talk, inner chatter, that's detrimental to your ability to remember is when you're walking towards someone for the first time, you're at a friend's house, a party, a business meeting, or whatever, and you're walking towards somebody, inevitably, you're going to be thinking, what do I think of that person? You're sizing them up. And then you're going to wonder, what do they think of me? Is my shirt buttoned right? Does my hair look okay? And then after that, you'll start thinking, what business deals are we going to talk about? What product do I think they can afford? What product do I think they want? Do I still have that stain on my shirt from Burger King? And you got all this stuff going on in your brain in that initial 5 seconds. Then you extend your hand. You say, hi, my name's Wes. They say their name is Ron. 2 seconds later, you have no idea what their name is. And it's not because a memory problem. It's because of all that internal chatter in your brain. You never heard it. So my first tip to everyone is this. When you're walking towards that new person, get rid of that chatter in your brain as much as you can and ask yourself this question. What is their name? What is their name? What is their name? Now, don't say that out loud, but ask it, and it will focus your brain, and you will be well on your way to remembering their name.
But what do you do when, we went to our neighbor's house this weekend, and their tradition is, they bake all these cookies, and then all the kids come over and they decorate them. But the kids and the adults do it, right? So, I mean, there's 15 new people in there, and you walk in, and we're late because we're always late, even though they were just across the street. And, you're bombarded with 15 new faces. How the heck do you keep those straight?
The first thing that you need to do, and this happened to me just last Thursday in Dallas, I'm the memory expert, and inevitably I walked into the room. The guy who hosted the meeting, his name was Scott. He was like, hey, Ron's here. Hey, I want to introduce you, everybody. This is Brian. This is Tom. And he just started going down the list. And when he got to the second person, I stuck out my hand and I said, Tim, how are you doing? Where are you from? In other words, I stopped the speed of that introduction. Because even as a memory champion, if I had allowed it to go on, if I had allowed it to go, this is Bob, this is Tim, this is Steve, this is Lisa, even as a memory champion, it would have been too fast for me. So the first thing that I would say is, number one, focus yourself. Number two, control the speed of the introductions. If you get the feeling you're about to get introduced to 10 people, on the second person, start a conversation with them. Or just say, hey, I'm going to have to reintroduce myself to all of you because I don't know your name. And you can do that because everyone listening is not a memory champion. I can't do that without an incredible amount of grief. So I just stop it right there. So number one, focus. Number two, control the speed of the introduction. The next two tips I'll give you very rapidly, but they're crucial. Have a predetermined picture for everybody's name. Have a predetermined picture for everybody's name. And what I mean by this, Steve is a stove, Lisa is the Mona Lisa, Karen is a carrot, Brian is a brain, Tom is a tomcat, Wes is
Zeus, right? Zeus or yeah. Oh.
Zeus? No, if it had something to do with you, it would be Zeus. But since it has to do just with the name Wes, I think of the Old West, like a ghost town or whatever. So they say their name, they say Wes, you think of the Old West, and then look at their face and imagine it on their face. If they have a big nose, and I'm not saying you have a big nose, but if they have a big nose, make it go up their nose. If they have big ears, make it in their ears. If they have a beard, see the picture on their ears. But Wes, what I'm telling you to do is focus, see a picture that represents their name, and imagine that picture vividly on their face. And I know that sounds overly simplistic, but it really works.
Yeah. Well, and I've gone through some of these, and it does work, but it is discipline. I mean, you've got to take the time to prepare, but we don't do it. I mean, We also need to eat more fiber, floss our teeth, get a little more cardio. How can we incorporate this into our business lives though, without being too onerous?
Well, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'll say to you. You're going to meet somebody today anyways. You're going to read a name tag today anyways. You're going to see a billboard with a name on it anyways. You are doing these things anyways. Make a commitment for the first 60 days of the year. That's it. If you will do it for 60 days, you'll never have to do it again. Pretty much. For the first 60 days of the year, every time you see a name, turn it into a picture. You don't need to memorize it. You don't need to try to remember names. Don't do any of that. Focus on one thing the first 30 or 60 days of the year. Every time you see a person, turn their name into a picture. See Steve, think to yourself, what's a picture for Steve? Stove. Got it. Like a stove you cook on. John, what's a picture for John? John Wayne, or a toilet. Got it. Every time you see a Steve from now on, from this point forward, it's stove. Every time you see a Lisa, Mona Lisa, or whatever it is. So what I would suggest to you is this, Wes, it's only going to take a month or two, and you only have to do it when you meet people, and you're going to meet people anyways. At the end of that 30 to 60 days, you're going to have pictures for most common names, and then just reuse them over and over for the rest of your life. I did it when I was 18. So for the last 28, almost 29 years, I've used it. But it's not a difficult process anymore. It was the first 30 days, though.
Right. And is there pressure on you, like when you show up, to, quote unquote, perform? Do people try to even push it, right? Like, let me introduce you to everybody real quick, and almost to stump you or have you show off?
Sometimes, but I'm aware of that, so I'm really always focused when I'm meeting people, because I know it's probably gonna happen.
Right.
But it's no big deal, I'm
Yeah.
human, and people understand that.
Yep. Do you have any kind of statistics on, like in selling, like when you remember somebody's name, or if you can use their name 3 times and, in an environment, sales go up 6% or whatever? Because I've seen things like with waiters and waitresses, if they touch somebody, touch them on the shoulder, on the forearm, ha ha, giggle, giggle, that their tip goes up something like 15% over normal. So, I've seen things like that. I'm just trying to remember, right, from things I've read in the past. But do you have any kind of similar stats?
I don't know if I do, but what I do know is this. Dale Carnegie wrote in his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, that everybody's favorite subject is themselves. And he did that by listening to conversations and taking transcripts of the conversations. And I was the most common used word by a large margin. He also said that the sweetest sound to a person's ear is the sound of their own name. And I will tell you, I can't tell you in any kind of mathematical formula, but I can tell you logically, if you're a salesperson and you see somebody at a baseball game in 6 weeks and you don't remember their name, and you go up and talk to them and say, hey, I know I sold you that car. I can't remember your name. Tell me your name again. That's good. You retouched them, re-engaged them. But if you walk up to them and say, Wes, how you doing? And how's your favorite football team that you know about? Something magical happens. You become that guy's friend. And when you become his friend, you're going to give him all your referrals and future business. So no math statistics, but just logically, I know that's true.
And do you remember it just from, Steve equals stove, or is there more? Do you have like a room you put them in, or, all these spatial things that I've heard about?
Yeah. So when you're remembering names, let's take an example. A guy with big ears. His name is Steve. Hi, my name's Ron. Boom. Now you're looking at his ears. Hey, my name's Steve. Oh, okay, Steve. And then you imagine his ears are cooking in a stove. His ears are melting on a stove. His ears are getting burned, and you nibble on his ears. But you're seeing it vividly and emotionally. Now, if you don't, if the next day you don't think about that guy and his ears in a stove, it's gone. This isn't going to work. This is something you have to go back to and review the day before. That's it. That's the system. Review, picture, image, action. Now, what you were talking about is a different technique. It's called the mind palace or the memory palace. And it is where I have numbered pieces of furniture in my house. For example, this U.S. flag up here, right here, could be number 1. This Soviet military hat right here could be number 2. This piece of the Berlin Wall right here could be number 3. Now, this cabinet over here could be 4. Now, that's not how I number furniture in my house because these are too close together in reality. I would normally make this number 1 and this number 2, but just for an example here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's say you had 20 pieces of furniture numbered in your house like that, and you could say them forwards and backwards. Tomorrow, you got a speech to give to 20 people, a sales speech or something. Take the first point to your thing that you want to talk about in your sales speech, the name of your product, visualize it on your first piece of furniture. If the name of your product is, give me a name of a product.
One of my products might be my hat, the Sales Whisperer hat.
Sales Whisperer hat. So I see a hat up there. I know I want to talk about the Sales Whisperer hat. And let's just say the first key to your Sales Whisperer program is being a good communicator. So on the next piece of furniture, I imagine a telephone. The next, and I'm just going to do 3 here. Right. The next point you want to talk about in your speech is you need your sales people to work together as a team. So you imagine what's your favorite football team?
LSU, baby.
LSU. So you got LSU right here holding up the Berlin Wall. So now you get up in front of the group the next day, no notes in your hand, and you think back to this room in your house and you say, guys, I want to talk to you today about my Sales Whisperer program. The first key talking about that is we need to be good communicators. We need to work together as a team. You could literally have 20 items on 20 pieces of furniture, give the entire speech without notes, and never forget a point. And that's called the Mind Palace technique. That's what I use for everything except names.
Ah, got you. Very cool. And then, so your program is Black Belt Memory. I mean, it's all this can be learned just online or through the group.
Yeah, it's an online program, and everything can be learned online. Certainly, the way I first learned was by attending a live workshop. And so people can learn both ways, but really I don't hold many public workshops myself. I'm more of a guest speaker, I guess. So most of my students learn online.
Right. So what do you cover in your talks? Are you giving them just tips like this, or just kind of encouraging them or kind of opening their minds even to the possibility that they can have a good memory?
All of the above. I normally get about 60 minutes and I will stand at the door and I'll introduce myself to 200 people or however many they have. But if they have 1,000 people, I stop myself at 200. That's 300 is really my max. But then I'll get up on stage and I'll say, if you're one of the 200-300 people I met, stand up. 200 or 300 people in the audience will stand up. I'll jump off the stage and I'll run around and point to them and say all of their names. I normally get 98 to 99% accurate. Normally there's 1 or 2 at the end that I just locked up on.
Right.
But it's kind of like a Vegas show. So I give them a show them what's possible, open their mind. But then I'll teach them this Mind Palace technique. We'll number 10 spots around the room, and then I'll give them 10 points to a business speech and show them how to use that room to give a business speech, kind of like I just did with you.
Right. So how do you handle names that are obscure? They're different than, your traditional John or Steve.
Most of my speeches these days are in the United States, but from 2010 to 2015, 30% of my speeches were international. And I would say 50% of those were either in Africa or Asia. So they weren't like European names.
Right.
And so when I would go into a room, there'd be 150 people there. If it was a United States room, I'd memorize all 150. But since it was in Indonesia, I had to create the pictures on the spot. I would normally stop around 50. But it's the same principle. If a guy's name is Chin Shu Bain, that's a name in Taiwan. Chin Shu Bain. I think of a chin, shoe, and he's buying something, buying shoes maybe. It's the exact same process. You listen to how it sounds and create a picture. But if you don't have predetermined pictures, you might as well be in America just starting out.
Yeah, gotcha. Hey, what do people get wrong about memory? I mean, do they think it can't be improved, so they just don't try? Have they just not heard of this? It's universal. meet salespeople. I go to conferences a lot. Never do I meet somebody that says, "Oh, I have a great memory. I'll remember your name." They all just immediately, "Oh, I'm terrible with names, so I'll have to ask you 10 more times before we're done." I mean, why do we just default to being bad?
You know what? That is such a great question. I'm going to make a YouTube video about that this week. Thank you for the idea.
All right.
The thing that people get the most wrong about memory and memory systems is that it takes too much work and it's not worth the work. That's what most people get wrong, because initially, the first 2 or 3 days, the first 2 or 3 days of building your mind palace is work. The first month of creating pictures for names is work. But after that, it is so simple. And the analogy I would use is this. If you went to the grocery store right now and you bought all you can without a shopping cart, your hands would be full, you'd be dropping stuff, and you might be able to get 6 or 7, 8 items. If you had a shopping cart, you could put 40 or 50 items in there. And it's easy, but somebody had to build that shopping cart. But once the shopping cart is built, it's easy. So I would say what people don't get is they think, you know what, I'm not even going to use shopping carts. I'm just going to keep carrying the 7 items that I can carry and nothing more than that. It's almost akin to saying, you know what, I don't want to get a car, because if I get a car, I have to pay insurance, I have to put air in the tires, I have to put gas in it, I have to wash it, I have to make a payment every month. I'm just going to walk everywhere. I don't have to do anything just to walk. True. But in a car, you can go 100 miles. In walking, you can go 5 miles.
Does this help you with jiu-jitsu?
You know what? Yes. And you probably know.
I need it. I can't remember any of these moves, man.
Well, I'm sorry I missed you that time. I really was sick, and I know it seems like I was dodging you, and I'm not. So we got a match coming up.
Yes. Wow.
There's actually a black belt that's very well known, and I'll say his name offline, but he's going to help me sell a course on how to remember jiu-jitsu moves.
Nice. Yeah. Well, the guy at your school, man, he was a great dude.
Yeah, Juan Tatum.
Yeah, I went twice, and
oh, really?
Great guy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's I'm addicted, man. I'm crazy. Although actually, I've hurt my elbow, and I got my big swim coming up, because you do a lot of stuff with the military, and each January I do the Tampa Bay Frogman swim. We swim 3.5 miles across Tampa Bay. But we got a dude, older dude, I don't know, about 68. The guy's legit, brown belt, small though. And I had a little neon belly going, but I wasn't cranking on him, right? Just set my hands down. And he got up and torqued my elbow, man. And that was in April.
Yeah.
And it's still hurting. And so I'm taking 3 weeks. I'm still training, just not sparring. But I'm 3 weeks of swimming so I don't drown. But golly, that hurt, man. But
well, it's I know how injuries are, but it's probably addicting for you as it is. Yeah. It gives you confidence, and it's a great way to exercise your brain, a great way to exercise your body. There's very few negatives about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. So I get there, and I was messaging Juan on Facebook. I said, Ron's sick. I don't have a gi. I was going to borrow his gi. He said, you can train no gi. So, okay. So, and it's a big class, man. You had a big class there. And there's one other guy not in a gi.
Yeah.
And he's probably 35, looked like a middle linebacker for the Cowboys.
Right.
Turned out he was an oil field worker, so a roughneck, right? And that guy's probably 6'4", 240, at least. And so, I don't know anybody there, so I'm thinking he's a regular, and he just likes to train no gi. Well, come to find out, it was his very first day there.
Yeah.
So, of course, they pair us up because we don't have gis. And so it's his first day, right? And we start, and here comes the bum rush, right? Just like every new guy. All they do is just street fight.
Oh, that's terrible.
And I remember, man, I just fall back, and I'm just using everything I can. And it's literally running through my mind. It's like, I am going to get tapped by this big dude on his very first day. I'm like, good thing I don't know anybody here. So nobody hopefully will remember. And one of the instructors is there.
Yeah.
And he's helping this new guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, could this get any worse? Right. And, but I'm holding him off, pull him in the guard. He's fighting, pushing. And after like about 90 seconds, he's in my guard and he just taps.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what happened? And the dude couldn't breathe. Right.
Yeah.
So he sits back and he's like about to puke. And I'm talking to the instructor. I'm like, why are you helping this guy, man? And he's like, I could tell after about 10 seconds, you knew what you were doing. You were holding your own. It's like, man, I was scared to death. But it's like, this jiu-jitsu stuff does work, right? Because if I fought a dude that size, that age on the street with no training, he'd have gotten on top of me and just pummeled me to death.
Yeah, man, that's true. And that's, and every, this is not a negative towards a white belt because I was white belt for 2 years or more.
We all were. Yeah.
But nobody wants to roll with a white belt because they just go all out.
Crazy.
It's frantic. But in a way, that's good training for the streets. But it's just not as enjoyable.
Yeah, it is, and they do calm down after a little while. But yeah, the scariest dude in the school is that white belt in like his first week,
That's where you're gonna,
And I learned too early on not to go easy. It's like because you don't want to just crush somebody and like take their soul from them on day one. But it's also you don't want to get hurt. But you also don't want to give them a false sense of, I don't know, bravado or overcome. Oh, this is so easy. That's a 3-year blue belt. I just tapped him. No problem. It's like, I was going at 5% and you went like a bat out of hell. So it's like, you got to kind of jump on them and control them. But man, my 21-year-old son just started. He's 2.5 months in. I tell you, I told him from the beginning, I was like, in 6 months, it's like, I won't be able to control you. And I think it may be 4 or 5 months. I won't be able to control him. Man. Yeah,
well, you're physically, you're a big guy too, so and that probably maybe works against you, but it works for you. So you just gotta get your own style.
Well, when you come out with that remembering jiu-jitsu, man, let me know.
Maybe by February, I'll get you a free copy.
All right, man, that'll be awesome. So we mentioned your site, right? blackbeltmemory.com. Is that where we should send everybody? Have them get started?
Yeah, and oh man.
You better answer your phone, man.
Sorry about that. Blackbeltmemory.com, and it should be fast loading. If it's not, go to blackbeltmemory.info. They both go to the same website.
Okay. And it's the 3 secrets I learned that changed how I memorized and think and will for you too. You don't have to be a genius. So easy a 6-year-old can do it. That's cool. I got a 5.5-year-old, so I'll test it on her in only 10 minutes a day.
I'll tell you what, I'll get you a free copy of this course, and I want you to go through it, and I want you to take the techniques and teach them to your kid, because when I say so easy a 6-year-old can do it, that's not just hyperbole sales pitch. I taught a 6-year-old how to memorize the presidents of the United States when there was 44 presidents of the United States, forwards and backwards by number in less than 90 minutes. And I put it on video, YouTube, and recorded it because you wouldn't believe me if I didn't do that. So that is not hyperbole sales pitch. That is true.
That's cool. Well, we homeschool our kids, and we got 2 that are we're homeschooling. So 2 are in high school, 2 are in college. So I'll have the 5.5-year-old beat them, and then that'll motivate them to take the course also.
Yeah. All right. Do that, man.
I'm like, dude, your little 5-year-old sister's smarter than y'all. You better, instead of are you smarter than a 5th grader, it's are you smarter than a 5-year-old? So
yeah,
that'd be pretty cool. All right, man. Ron White, thanks for coming to the show, man. It's been great.
Hey, you're a good friend. I look forward to rolling with you one day, and thank you for including me with your audience.
I will be back. My sister's in Southlake, man, so I'm gonna be out in your area a couple times a year. So I'll look you up.
I will be sure to be sick for the jiu-jitsu. Okay. See you, man.